My name is Michael Dana. In 2008, I was diagnosed with a rare brain cancer, and after 6 years, I was cancer free. But the ordeal left me changed, with a different outlook on life and a new sense of priorities. While still recovering, I earned a degree in economics from UNC Chapel Hill. My studies taught me to analyze data and open my mind to see things differently. I also started formal training in the martial arts to better defend myself and use it as a means of extreme physical therapy. Since then, I've obtained black belts in 3 martial arts. I own and run a martial arts school and have logged over 51 teaching hours. To my friends and family, I'm a simple business owner. But to the martial arts world, I'm something else. I am Sifu Mike, and this is Dragon Theory.
How's it going, guys? So I am here to talk to you about the gi, alright, the martial arts uniform that everyone associates with every martial art for the most part, the martial art gi. Alright, this is my little gi burrito here. If you go to my YouTube channel, you can look, and I actually have a video tutorial on how to fold your gi to make it into a little compact burrito like this guy. And so this is one of my mini gis. If you've done martial arts a lot like I have and you're a mixed martial artist, you've probably got several of these guys lying around. And you probably have been told several different stories about why you are having to wear this thing. And I'm going to be discussing those stories, and I'm going to be discussing more of the reasons behind them. Because they're all true, right? But there's a different reason for why they are true, and I'm going to kind of go over that in a little brief history lesson. So make sure to stay tuned and watch the entirety of this video to really learn why I think that Jigoro Kano, the guy who introduced these things, he's a total genius, right? Absolute genius. I'm not going to say it any differently. Man is a genius, and I'm going to tell you why I think so about this thing. So I'm going to put this guy down, so I'm not going to be holding it the entire time. Alright, so talking about the gi, and I'm not going to go into a deep dive history of like the type of fabric and everything and stuff like that. I'm going to go over some of the things that have been told. Now, everyone associates the gi having come from judo and Jigoro Kano, the guy who invented judo. Okay, judo started in 1882, alright, and Jigoro Kano was about 22 years old when he did that. Now, the gi didn't come along until later, until between 1900 and the 1920s, right? So several years after he started judo. So we're going to go about, I'm going to detail why I think it's also why I think he's a genius. Okay, so going back to, let's talk about the first story that most people are told, right? When they're getting the gi on, they're told, hey, this is a surrogate for a jacket. Well, that is totally true, okay? Here's the thing though, not everywhere has people wearing jackets all the time. Okay, so it's not a year-long thing. Now, back in the day, because I think everything was done for a reason, that's the thing. I'm going to give you the reasons for why I think he incorporated the gi, and when you find out the reasons behind something, the reason behind the technique is when you really truly understand the technique, because if you don't, then you might end up like trying to jam a square peg into a round hole and you get frustrated, right? So this is kind of the key to understanding this. But again, like I said, the reasonings for this are amazing. Now, like I said, jacket, right? So it is, in fact, a jacket, right? You're not going to be wearing a jacket year-round. Your opponents aren't going to be wearing a jacket year-round. But Jigoro Kano wanted his students to be able to train year-round, right? And it wasn't until about 12 years after he founded judo in his school that he actually had winter classes, right? And that's just documented, okay? So back in the day, they didn't have like central heating, right? And so they didn't have convenient ways of training. And so if it was too cold outside, it's going to be too cold inside to actually do stuff. Now, like I said, the gi came later, but we know that he started doing this winter classes. Now when you wear a gi, it's basically like a martial arts blanket. Okay, I tell people all the time it's like fighting in a blanket. All right, it is warm. All right, and the gi pants are like martial art pajamas. Right, so it totally tracks. Now if we put that in, right, you're wearing a jacket, it's going to be warmer, it's going to be easier for you to train in colder weather and colder climate when it's cold outside. So you can have more classes in the year. So if you can think of having, say, classes only 8 months out of the year, right? So you have like a 4-month period where it's really cold and you can't have any classes because it's really cold. Well, now you have a gi, so now you can have those classes. So more classes means more training, so your students will be getting better, and it also means more tuition money, right? So there's a financial incentive to this thing. That's what I go about. I'm an economist, so like I understand the financial aspect of this. So we have that. Now I'm going to try to be as quick as I can and give you as much information I can, so this isn't a very long video, because I could go all about how awesome this dude is. So we have that aspect. Now the other story is that a lot of people are told, and I've been told all of these before by several different people. So wearing a gi makes things more technical. That is totally true. All right, now coming from a teaching perspective, all right, I teach a whole lot, like over 5,500 hours at this point. So from a teaching perspective, let me use my words, man, it is totally more technical to wear the gi. All right, so if you can think of, so I'm going to use some hypothetical numbers, that way the math is easy, so you can kind of follow along here. If you've got 30 movements of the human body, okay, the human body can only move in so many different ways, so you're going to have a lot of the same stuff, just in a different context, or just called a different word, right? And so this would be a different context. So we have 30 movements of the body, and 2 ways of doing each one, left and right. So we have 60 techniques, right? 60 techniques, and this kind of tracks with, at the very beginning of most martial arts, you have people who are getting black belts in like a year and a half kind of thing. It's because they don't have as much to teach in that martial art. Now, when you add a gi into the mix, all of a sudden that 2 goes up to 10. Okay, so you have 10 ways of doing those 30 movements. You all of a sudden have 300 techniques, right? Beautiful. You have a whole lot more that you can teach your students. Whole many different ways of doing the same thing, okay? And so just by adding that one little variable, okay, you increase the amount of techniques that you have that you can teach, right? This is awesome. Okay, because if you look at the beginnings of a lot of martial arts, the founders often will run out of things to teach their students. And so they go somewhere else and learn more stuff, bring it back in to teach their students something, that always have something for them to kind of keep them in. Okay, Kano did the opposite. He just expanded what he already had. Now he did use knowledge, but he incorporated a gi fabric so that he can expand what he already had. Again, beautiful, genius, because by making more techniques in it, he made the process of learning those techniques even longer, right? So now we went from maybe getting a black belt, getting the basics of the martial arts in 1 year, to getting it in like maybe 5, 6, 7, sometimes 10, sometimes people never get it, right? Because there is so much there. Right? Again, awesome, because if you increase the amount of time that somebody has to learn something and increase the amount of techniques that they have to know to get to black, you've increased the amount of tuition. Right? So there's the financial incentive to wearing the fabric and having the gi. Right? This man is not, he's not like a money grubber or whatever. He's a genius, because like, this is just awesome. He didn't have to go somewhere outside and bring in other martial arts. I mean, that's how a lot of mixed martial arts happen, is because some people are bringing in extra stuff to have more that they can teach their students, right? So the students don't get bored by doing the same thing. This is their students doing the same thing, but they're doing it in different ways because they have fabric that they can hold on to and they can pull and they can manipulate the human body. I mean, his whole thing was about efficiency and using little strength, right? Well, it's super efficient if you know all the different things that you can do with the gi, with the fabric, okay? And it's very easy to manipulate the posture and the balance of somebody if they have a piece of fabric that you can pull on that they can't resist as easily as another person. Then if you have the whole sweat defense. If you've ever done a whole lot of martial arts, you know that people have a tendency to sweat. Okay, sweat happens, right? And so in grappling, when you're trying to hold on to somebody and aggressively hug them, then sweat defense is a big thing. Having fabric on you all the time, that mitigates it, because then you can hold on to the fabric and not, another person who can slip out. So there is that aspect. Okay, now I said this was introduced somewhere in between the 1920s and the turn of the century kind of deal. If you again look at his age, he'd be about 40. He'd be in his 40s when this gi was introduced. That kind of tracks with the whole hand versus the torso method, and using just your arms and your body, or using your muscles rather, versus using your entire body. All right, his thing was use as little strength as possible, because he got older, he didn't have as much strength to use, right? Makes sense, it tracks, it totally does, right? And so he added the gi, and the thing is that he was the one who knew all the different things, like the 10 different ways of doing each thing. So he added a variable that only he really knew. Alright, you can't accurately defend against something if you don't know what that something is. I've been saying all the time. And so he added something that he knew his opponents didn't, so he was able to get the upper hand on him. He got the advantage, right? Beautiful! Okay, if you look at most martial arts, they have that kind of teacher superiority built in, even if they don't even realize it. So in certain martial arts, like at one rank, you'll be taught a technique, and then the next rank, you'll be taught how to counter that technique, and then the next rank, you'll be taught how to counter that counter. And that's kind of why some martial arts, you have to be at least 2 ranks above the rank that the person is going for in order to teach them something, because you need to know the counter in case they come up with a counter, so you can always counter them, so you can always stay on top. And this was his way of staying on top of people even when he got older and wasn't able to really muscle his way through. Introduced a piece of fabric and they didn't know what to do, but he did, right? Beautiful, right? We have examples all throughout judo in the history of him pulling from other martial arts into his martial art, specifically so that he can win randori, which is a free practice, the sparring, right? So he even famously took a wrestling technique and used it against a dude who was always beating him. The guy didn't know that technique, so it worked on him, right? He's had a history of doing all this stuff. Now he's got the key, he can totally do it all day long, and there's just an infinite amount of possibilities for him to play with and to utilize. Like I said, man, freaking genius. Freaking love this dude. So he introduces that, and at the same time, he, like I said, he expanded the technique. So he took something simple, made it complex. Now, if you look at every major popular sport in the world, okay, the one thing that they have in common, that they all share, is that they are all complicated, okay? That's why we are willing to spend millions of dollars to watch people do the things that we can't do, because it's complicated, because there's more to it than simply, either throwing a baseball or shooting a basketball or whatever like that. There's a whole lot to it, and we simply cannot do that. So we pay these people to do these things that we can't do, right? Because they're complicated, right? That's what he did with judo. He made it complicated. Shock, shock, shock. A few years later, right, it's an Olympic sport, right? It's like the pinnacle of sports events. It's in the Olympics. Everybody on the planet is doing judo, right? Everybody is paying to see other people do judo because it's amazing, because it's complicated, because they can't do it, because there's like 300 some odd techniques, because they're wearing a gi. Beautiful. Genius. Alright, so the last thing that I'm going to talk about is that some people say we wear this technique or wear the gi because it's traditional, and that is true. Now it is, alright, but not when it first started. When judo first started, martial arts in Japan was not really kind of a big thing. In fact, that's one of the reasons why it's called judo and not something else, because do means method or way, whereas jutsu means martial arts. So martial arts had a negative connotation in Japan at that time. It's kind of like the same now. I mean, you know, people, you say martial arts and they automatically think hyper-violent blood sport. Thank you, cage fighting. So not so much the case, but to distance themselves from that, he called it judo. He called it a way. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of practicing. It's a mentality, right? And absolutely beautiful in that respect, but not how it started. Okay. Now, saying the gi is traditional, that came later when the gi was added. So when he says it's traditional, remember, an entire generation has passed, and you have a new generation. He wanted to bring this kind of patriotism and this loyalty to the country. And the easiest way to do this is to say, hey, this piece of fabric honors our ancestors and all this kind of stuff. And so people latch onto it. Yeah. So much so that every single martial art that has a Japanese influence adopted that same kind of fabric. Okay? Every single one. Right? So not only did he introduce it, but he got everyone else to start using it too. Because it didn't come from Jiu-Jitsu, right? Jiu-Jitsu started first, and then Judo came second. So if it was really traditional, it would have started in Jiu-Jitsu, but it didn't, right? It started in Judo. Kano added it, because Kano's a freaking genius, right? So he adds this thing, and then says it's traditional, and then everyone adopts it. That's why it's like the thing that you think about when you think about traditional martial arts. You think about the uniform that everybody wears, the gi, right? Like I said, awesome. And but so we have that. Now the thing is, what I said before, you can't accurately defend against something if you don't know what that something is, right? You can also win any game if you play by your own rules. So not only did this man define the game, but then he got everybody to play it with him, right? His rules, his game, he got everybody by saying, hey, it's traditional, to play along and play by his rules so that he can stay on top. Genius. Absolute genius. Love this dude, right? And so he got everybody involved and got an Olympic sport, got it, but we're talking about every single Japanese influenced martial art has the same kind of fabric that he introduced, okay? Almost every single martial art nowadays has some kind of judo influence mixed in with it, either the straight on techniques or just a part of it, or a concept. I mean, that's just awesome, okay? And so those are kind of the reasonings behind it. And the thing is that most of the people that I run into, like if they've done a whole lot of grappling when they first start out, they really don't like wearing a gi because it is complicated and it's hard to learn and stuff like that. And it's more technical and it's hot. It's like fighting in a blanket, man. And so they don't really like it. So if they don't like it now, they probably didn't like it back then. So they gotta get their reason. But once they learn all the different things that you can do with the gi and how you can manipulate somebody with it, it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And so that's what that's my whole thing, man. I could go on and on and on, but this is already turning into a long video and I tried to make it short, but I had too much. But yeah, Jigoro Kano, absolute genius. And here's the awesome thing. This is what gives me hope. He is an economist, okay? He went to school first and got a degree in economics, all right? He's an educated, smart man who understands data and how to analyze things, all right? So I'm an economist, he's an economist. This totally gives me hope that I will one day rule the world. Okay, but in all honesty, I'll be happy with whatever I get. Man, if I get like a small country, even a town, alright, I can probably get a town, alright? There's a town in Alaska that elected a cat as a mayor for like a decade or so. So I think my odds are pretty good, man. Right? Chances are good. I'm gonna, shoot for the stars and be happy that I took a shot. That's what I do. So, anyways, Gi is all about. It's just this whole story explains everything that I've been saying about how if you know yourself and you know your enemy, winning is going to be a result. Okay, you can't accurately defend against something if you don't know what that something is. Okay, knowledge is power. Power is control, and the easiest way to keep control of your opponent is to keep them ignorant. And by doing that, introduce something that is foreign to them that they don't know. Right? Some martial arts, they withhold the information. Right? He instead got more information and did it that way. And by doing so, he freaking changed the world just about. Right? Everybody does judo. So, anyways, been talking a long time. I'm going to wrap this up. Be sure to check out my other videos on my YouTube channel and go to thedragonmethod.com. It's my website where I've got videos that teaches you how to do all the stuff that I just talked about in judo and utilize the gi, alright, the fabric, okay? So, dragonmethod.com, thedragonmethod.com. Check that out. Also, like I said, I've got like a whole massive, like 200 some odd type of videos on my YouTube channel, so be sure to watch all of those, okay? Subscribe, because I got new stuff coming out all the time, alright? Hope you enjoy this, hope you learned something, and remember, the dude, Jigoro Kano, freaking genius, absolute genius, awesome guys. So, anyways, I'm gonna head out, and hope you learned something, man. Alright, take it easy.